talking about St. Bede. Not much is really known about him or his early childhood. What we do know is that, first of all, we don't even know where he was born. We have a general idea, but it's still unknown where he was born. Second of all, what we do know is that at the age of 7, his parents took him to a monastery in Montworth, next to St. Peter. It's called St. Peter Monastery. And from the age of 7 till pretty much the rest of his life, he ended up in a monastery all his life. Then at the age of 9, he moved to another monastery next to the Tyre River. That monastery is called St. Paul. And so those are some of the stuff we know from early childhood. And then in his monastery life, St. Bede, a lot of the stuff that he did was work outside in the fields, because a lot of the stuff that the monks were, not a lot of it, all the food, all the clothes, everything that the monks had, they had to make for themselves. And so all of the monks they had to make, so they were out in the field making stuff, making food, making clothes. And so a lot of his time when he was in the Bible was making and helping the other monks out in the fields for food. Another thing was that at the early age, when he started learning, his main study language was Latin. And so from there till later on, he mainly focused on Latin. So St. Bede actually loved learning scripture and memorizing Psalms. And I would kind of hope that, especially since he's in a monastery. But in his book, The Church History of the English People, he says, "At the age of 7, I gave all my thought to meditation upon the scriptures, and in the intervals of the monastery, round in the daily care of chanting in the church, my sweetest delight was ever in learning or teaching and writing." And for St. Bede, I would kind of hope that, especially since, he's in the monastery.
As we consider Bede's early ministry and his services, here we are in an academic setting where students are trained for ministry services. So in 1899, Pope Leo XIII called Bede a saint and a doctor of the church. At 19 years old, Bede was ordained as a deacon. And he also could have been a priest at an earlier age, but he felt like popes or priestly services would have interfered with his study life. In 703, at age 30, Bede was ordained as a minister, or as a priestly minister. Now, both of these ordinances were done by Bishop John of Beverley. For the rest of his life, it is assumed that Bede lived in England. Now, there are two objections to that. One objection is that Pope Sergius invited Bede to Rome and that they discussed religious matters. The other objection is that in some of Bede's writings that he claimed to live near the monastery for the rest of his life. Now, Bede seems to have two major purposes in his writing. One of these being he is concerned with the chronological development, which consists of comprehensive treatment and fairness of accuracy. The other point is that he relates the gradual movement of the people of his land from diversity to unity that he sees reflected in the decision from the Roman tradition of Christianity over a Celtic one.
Who is Bede? Some would call him the doctor of the church, others a theologian, or perhaps even an historian. I would argue that he's all of the above. Looking back at his life work, we see that he wrote two books in particular that outline the church history. Taking us a step farther in the realm of science, he was one of the first ever to recognize the 365-day and a quarter calendar. Looking at the history, he was one of the first ever to use BC and AD when looking at a chronological timeline. He wrote about theologians and the saints of his time. He also writes several Bible commentaries. His greatest work, however, would probably be the Historia Ecclesiastica, also known as the Ecclesiastical History of the English People. In his writing, he spoke on the blessings bestowed upon the people of his time when they followed God's call. To break this down, he just pointed to the gospel. Several of the information that he received from this book he got from the papal archives. He also used other history books throughout the time, which up to his time was very difficult because of the great distance between. Having to please the Northumbrian king, he wrote what he did in a very poignant way to be sure not to offend anyone. Finishing in 731, his work was greatly received. In fact, Alfred the Great had it translated into Anglo-Saxon. Up to this point, Bede was the first person ever to write scholarly articles and information in the English language. In fact, we now have the Book of John in Old English because of his work. A side note here is that Bede was so proud to be English, as you can see right here on the map, that he bragged about the English and Saxon background. Just as the icing and the cream of the crop, he also was the leader in the style of chant that we now call Gregorian today. In closing, we look at Bede and we can see that he was a superstar of his time.
Bede had opponents and he had supporters. Most of this focused around his writing as a historian. In his day, he didn't have many opponents. People loved him. Today, modern historians have made some pretty strong claims against his ability to write. S.D. Church, who was a historian at the University of East Anglia, said that Bede's historical record and evidences were wrong when it came to paganism. Barbara Cooper from the British Heritage periodical had a stronger statement saying that his writing was propaganda. Charlotte Baer, who wrote The Origins of Kingship in Early Medieval Kent, said that his account of the arrival of the Germanic invaders in Kent shouldn't really be considered reality, but rather conveys myths that were current in Bede's time. So Bede is communicating myths and not real historical fact. His supporters, however, in his day obviously would include the fellow monks in his monastery, and even monks outside of his monastery. Plaguewine of Hexham told Bede that he had been accused of heresy by the priest David in the presence of Bishop Wilfrid. So he was warning him about that accusation. So he had friends outside. In modern times, he was venerated by the Roman Catholic Church, by the Eastern Orthodox Church, by the Lutheran Church, and the Anglican Church. And in the Anglican Church, there's actually a major shrine dedicated to Bede in the Durham Cathedral in Durham, England. Historians also praised him. These include Frank Stenton, who was published through Oxford University Press. And Stenton said that Bede had an astonishing power to coordinate fragments of information and put them together in a way that was readable and understandable. Now, Stenton wrote from Oxford University Press, and so we need to question people from Oxford. So just keep that in mind. Patrick Wormald, also writing, published from Oxford University Press, said that Bede was the first and greatest of England's historians. And then there was a man named Walter Goffert. And Walter Goffert wrote in the Narrators of Barbarian History, he said that Bede holds a privileged and unrivaled place among first historians of Christian Europe. Wulfstan, the Bishop of Worcester, was particularly devoted to Bede because in 1062, when he first was consecrated as a bishop, he dedicated a church to him. And so you can see he has more supporters than he does opponents. And this is fitting because legend has it, you may have heard Bede's name pronounced as the Venerable Bede. And legend has it that on his grave, after his name Bede, an angel etched in the words the Venerable, which means respected. So we can see that he was respected. In fact, history bears that out. He was more respected and more supported than he was opposed.
That's all, folks.